What's up, everybody? Welcome to Mongols. This is our prediction show where we're going to try to break down what we expect to happen as Hartford travel to Pittsburgh for our home opener. I am Mike Sparks. Joining me is Justin Ashcraft. Justin, how are you, my friend?
I'm doing well. Just got back from the gym and a 4 mile run. So I'm feeling, got all the exercise endorphins going. So hopefully that'll translate into some positive comments about the Hounds.
Good. I played some pickup last night. It was a little bit chilly, but that will not translate into any positive conversation about the Hounds. I feel all beat up and sore, and I've been playing indoor all winter, and it's been okay. But like back outside on hard ground, like with a frozen ball, yeah. So let's let's get into the news of the week. It's been a bit of a slow week for us. I know we typically have a whole bunch of shows. There may or may not have been a pregame episode. I say this because we're actually recording this Friday at lunchtime, even though it airs Saturday morning. But due to some scheduling snafus with the team, we may or may not end up doing an interview that was dropped before that. So can't use that for reference at all. Didn't have an insider show this week. So really, we're just kind of going off of what we've seen from, Hartford thus far and what we've seen from the Hounds thus far in order to make our predictions. In terms of actual news, the two big things. So one, Beto got called up to the Puerto Rican national team. He's still going to be in Pittsburgh for the game this weekend. And then in theory, he will travel and be with the team from there. I'm curious as to your thoughts. So I feel like both you and I are somewhat high on Beto, but listening to shows like Houndsy and, some other side conversations we've had, there's a lot of people that are really down on Beto. So I'm just curious, hearing that other people are down on Beto, does that make you rethink what it is that you've seen of him or what it is you think about him? Or are you still pretty high on him as a prospect?
Yeah, I mean, I think so. My thought is we've had two weird games, right? We had the first game of the season, which is always weird. You never know kind of what's going to happen. We didn't necessarily expect him to start in that game. And so I think there was a fluke goal and, but it happened on both ends of the field. And then we had last weekend in San Antonio. Obviously, the win played a huge factor in that game, all of that kind of stuff. And so I think I reserve my judgment for a couple more games to be like, all right, let's see what he looks like when there's not 50-mile-an-hour winds and when it's not the first game of the season, and then see what he looks like, and so this game will tell me a little bit more about what I expect of him and all that kind of stuff. And then I think, but you go into national team call-ups, and no matter what national team you're a part of, those aren't done on 2-game stretches either. And so it's not like the Puerto Rican coach is looking at the last 2 games of the Hounds and going, oh, this guy's worth calling up. That's gone on a history of, what he did in college and all that kind of stuff too. And what he looks like as a player. And so I think there's I look at it very similar to like Shane Wheat and some other players that we've seen come through. First year, you can see the potential, but it's not always there, and there's some rough moments and rough games. And then you, as the season goes on, as their next season and all of that, then you start to see the potential more fully. And so I think that's where I kind of am at with Beto, is I know there's going to be some rough moments, but you also see a lot of positives. And so I hang my hat on that more than the mistake or two that is inevitably going to happen.
Yeah, I think I agree. Not to take a swing at Houndsy. I love listening to Houndsy every week. I think that, the insight is amazing. The insider knowledge is amazing. But, one of the big sticking points for them was that he got a free header and he put it wide in this last game. And it's like, well, if we dock every player that's missed a free header or an open shot, like you'd hate this entire team. So like, I feel like I'm giving him a little bit more leeway because, like you said, he is a new player in a new system trying to figure it out. But there have been enough little positives that I think if you give him 10, 15 games into the season, we're probably going to be looking at a slightly different player that's going to be, one of the first 5 names maybe on the team sheet when we start to figure out how we want to play, just because he'll just be a piece of that back line that you're always going to want there. So it was interesting, but I guess congrats, Beto, to being called up to the Puerto Rican national team. I know you've played there before, but but it'll be good for you to go get some international experience, hopefully not at the expense of the Hounds. Hopefully we can sort of weather the storm without you there. So that's good. The other big news, Justin, that came out this week, it was all over the internet. Everybody's talking about it, even if they don't talk about soccer, is that promotion and relegation are an official thing, that the USL is now talking about it. The ownership of the teams got together and voted on it, and we actually have a quote here from Tuffy that says, "We fully support the USL's move to bring promotion and relegation to our leagues. This vote and the Division One League to start in 2027-28 both represent big steps in the right direction to continue growing the game of soccer in the U.S. At the Riverhounds, we intend to be a big part of that growth while contending for championships at the highest possible level on the field." Again, that is from Tuffy. Thoughts on all of this news about ProRel, Justin?
Yeah, it was funny. I was on my Philadelphia Union podcast. We were talking about this last night, actually, and I think it's interesting because there's really no plan, right? It's like, hey, we voted on this. It's a thing. How is it going to happen? We have no idea at this point. And so, yeah, am I excited about it? Yeah, I think it's a great thing for the sport. And I think it's a great thing for the USL to, continue to compete against MLS and WSL and all of that. And so I think it's a great thing for the league. How it gets implemented is going to be the most important part. And I think that's the same thing that I feel about the Division One league too, is like, all right, but there's still a whole approval process, and whether US Soccer actually approves your Division One league. Yes, you could call them your top division league, but they've got to, you've got to figure out how to get them approved as a Division One league, and all the teams have got to have their stadiums in order and ownership and all that kind of stuff. So it's just like there's a long, it's going to be a long 2 years to trying to figure out like how this is going to actually happen and how this is going to occur. But I'm excited for the prospect of it happening.
Yeah, agreed. What's been interesting is the number of American fans of other sports that have been looking at this and going, wow, this would be amazing in like our sport, like college football or NBA or whatever. Mm-hmm. And so for the USL to at least be the first one to say, hey, we're going to do this and bring light to it when there are people who may not know how it works in the European level is cool. But like you said, I feel like we've been talking about ProRel for probably the past 10 years. And so it's great that the USL has said that we intend to do it, but also like, I don't really want to spend too much time talking about it until we actually see some of those details. And, one of the biggest things for me at this point is just how are the Hounds, how are other teams going to navigate all of the various requirements between D1, D2, D3 in terms of stadium size and ownership money? And like, sure, you got promoted, but like if you could have the best, you could have like a Leicester season where you go from zero to hero and now all of a sudden you're promoted up. Does that mean that your club has the money to increase your stadium size or, find another owner or what? It's going to add a bunch of logistics, and until we can see those details, I'm excited, but I'm kind of just holding my breath, and we'll see what happens. So
yeah, I think the couple things that like makes me think of is one, I think like US based fans, whether you're a fan of soccer or not, are becoming more comfortable with the ideas of these things, through mediums like Welcome to Wrexham, even Ted Lasso, in the promotion stuff in that show. And so I think they're becoming more comfortable with the idea of like, oh, that does provide a lot more excitement to the end of a season when you're not sure like if you're going to stay up or whatever, and you got to win a couple, all that kind of stuff is, it makes it way more exciting. It makes it, way more fun. So I love that. And then I think the second thing is to the ownership piece. I think it pushes owners to be forward thinking and not reactive or in the moment thinking. Right now a lot of soccer owners can think, okay, how do we get good this season? Like, what do we need to do? What transfer do we need to make this season to put our playoff, potential in the right spot? And I just don't think enough soccer owners in the US think, okay, how am I going to be good 3 seasons down the road? And how am I, if we get promoted 2 seasons from now, am I going to have the money? Am I going to have the resources? Am I going to have the contracts in place to put a stadium together and all that kind of stuff? And you saw it a little bit with Ipswich and some of the other teams that have been promoted to the Premier League over the last couple of years, they've had to do some, it's like, well, they don't have a home game until October because their stadium's still getting finished and all that kind of stuff. And so it's like, how do you then think ahead and go, okay, all right, if we get promoted a couple years from now, are we going to be ready?
Yeah. No, I mean, the trickle down effect is huge. Also talking just about player contracts, like you're likely going to see less, maybe 1 year deals, because you're going to be thinking about, like you said, how can we stay here in 3 years, or how can we move up in 3 years? And if you have a player you really like, you're not going to want to have to deal with the prospect of them potentially being acquired by a division that's one above you or one below you. You're going to want to lock those guys down. So it will be very interesting if and when this happens. But again, something to look forward to over the next few years. Let's talk a bit about Hartford. So Hartford are coming to town tonight, we'll say, because, this, like I said, this is going to drop on Saturday. It will be Golden Glove night, which is an oven mitt, as well as there are going to be fireworks galore. In terms of Hartford themselves, they've only played 2 games thus far, and only one of them had been in the USL. So that was against Lexington on March 8th. It might have been the first official game of the season. And then they had an Open Cup match this past Tuesday, but they didn't play a league game last weekend. So really, we kind of have the one game to go off of. In that game against Lexington, they lost 2-0. They played a 4-2-3-1. They had 8 shots. None of them are on target. Most of their passes into their final third are coming from within the opponent's half. So if you were to look at one of the things that we had talked about maybe last week, was we were really impressed that a lot of our passes into our final third were coming from almost our half, from our defenders who are making these passes that are breaking lines and springing the attack from defense straight into offense. That does not seem to be the case for Hartford. They are instead trying to work the ball up the field, and most of their passes are coming. Most of their passes into the final third are coming from within the opponent's half. So they're just kind of moving it through the midfield and making it work that way. Interestingly, the guy on their team who has made the most passes into the final third is Samaria, who is going to be out because he got a red card late against Lexington. So that'll be something that's in our favor. The other thing is that the vast majority of all of their passes into the final third are coming from out wide. Literally in the final third, it's 0% are coming through the middle, and it's 50-50 split left and right. So they're not really working through the middle at all, which could be an advantage for us, the way that we kind of line up. They did beat the New York Shockers in the Open Cup on Tuesday, 3-0. That game was at home, so they weren't traveling midweek. So that's no real advantage for us. They dominated that game with 80% possession, which shouldn't be a huge surprise, but in terms of the players that are there that we kind of still know, Joe Farrell is the one name that sort of stands out. Joe Farrell had a really good season for us 2 years ago on defense. Went to Hartford last year. He's still there. Otherwise, not really a ton of names. And other than that, I mean, the big thing was from Josh's Dogs of War video, which dropped yesterday. We've kind of dominated this battle, 11 wins, 2 draws, 2 losses for the Hounds. But one of those losses came last season when we lost 2-0 at Hartford. So with all of that in mind, is there anything that you are currently worried about as it relates to Hartford coming to Highmark?
No, I think one of the things I've been thinking a lot about in this early part of the season has just been contextualization and realizing hey, we are only 2 games into the season. So I still want to see the Hounds get it figured out before we start worrying about what the other team's doing necessarily. I think we've got there's the injury issues, there's players still missing, there's the gelling that needs to happen at the beginning of the season, and I kind of like to see all of that. I think looking at Hartford, I mean, they won their Open Cup match, which 5 other teams that were the higher division team did not this week, and so it's good that they actually did what they were supposed to do in that game, because there was a bunch of other teams who didn't. So that's good for them. But it'll be, I think this is a battle of teams who still need to get some things figured out. So we'll see.
Yeah. Let's talk about the Hounds. So, what was interesting to me, and I don't disagree with you, but when we were talking on Sunday, you had said that you're less concerned about our defense, you're more concerned about the attack. So could you elaborate on that a little bit? Why are you concerned about the attack, and what would have to happen this weekend for you to sort of change your tune on that, or would you, depending upon anything?
Yeah, I think for me, looking at it, we've scored one goal and we've scored it on a fluke and a mess up by the keeper. Yes, Augie put it away from a weird angle with defenders running with their, back towards the goal and like all this kind of stuff. Like he still had to finish there. But I think like we only scored one goal, and you're not going to win if you don't score goals. And it felt like there was a couple times where we could have scored last week, but it also didn't feel like we were going to score. And so, we were in the right positions, but it didn't feel like anybody got great shots off or great looks on net. And so it still feels like, to me, it feels like some of it is just gelling. Everybody just needs to figure out how to play together. Robbie, Danny, need to figure out where Augie's going to be, where he wants to be, where he's trying to get to on the field. All of that kind of stuff. That is all a case of, we're trying to figure it out. I think Brad Sample will help that out when he starts playing again and is in this lineup. Jacqueline will obviously help that out when he's back. And so there's a lot of different components. And so I'm not sitting here saying, oh no, our attack is as bad as it was last year, or we're going to go 8 games without a goal. I don't think that's necessarily the case. I'm just struggling with all right, we haven't really seen our attack at its best or even close to its best. And so I get a little bit concerned with that. Yes, we scored in preseason. Yes, we scored multiple goals in multiple games in preseason, but that's preseason. And so I'd like to see us kind of put together some more sustained pressure, sustained attack, sustained good looks on net. And we just haven't had a ton yet this year. And so I don't know that I'm worried. It's just I'm less concerned about our defense giving up goals than I am our offense not scoring them. Because you see so many games, especially at the USL level, you see so many games that end up 4-3, 4-2. Those kind of games can happen. And I think it's okay that those games happen, but we need to be on the 4 end and not the 2 end. And right now I'm not seeing an attack that's ever going to get us on the scoring 4 goals a game.
Yeah. No, I fully agree. I was going to ask you, is there some score amount that would make you feel better? But I feel like that's kind of a ridiculous question this early in the season. Like, even if we go out and we win 3-0 this weekend, part of it is the eye test. Where do the 3 goals come from? Are we seeing guys get into good positions? Are we seeing the team move forward as a group and be dangerous? Because if we do that and we win 1-0, then I think we both would probably feel better about the attack, regardless of the score line. So I think it's largely going to be the eye test. It will be interesting how much we would caveat it because it's at home and it's Hartford, but whatever. I think some of this is probably mental too. We saw it last season where we went on that drought of not scoring, and every guy you talked to, it was just the weight was there. And so I think if we get 1 or 2, then you're going to see guys loosen up a little bit, especially the newer guys, this being their first year in the USL. If they're able to get 1 and put it away, then that sort of takes the reins off them too. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see. You mentioned Sample. We at this point, we don't know if he is back to 100%, if he'll be game eligible. My question for you is, barring injury or injury news, would you change anything about the starting lineup compared to last week or the week before?
Yeah, yes, maybe. I don't know. I can't say for sure if I would do, if I would do it or not. But it feels like it kind of feels like we're in a situation where it's like we're not getting what we need out of the attack. Like, we're just not scoring goals and we're not getting looks. And so can you do something on that in the field to change some things? And so I'm not sure if it's the starting lineup or if it's putting Larson in at the 65th minute instead of the 85th minute or something like that. It's getting him a 20-minute look at the game. If it's putting all on at halftime and not waiting until the 75th minute and giving him a half to gel into the team and like figure out the game and all that kind of stuff. Some of it's tactical to me. I would like to see Augie come back and find the game a little bit when we're on the attack, not on defense. I think he needs to keep pressing and keep up the pressure that way. But once we have the ball, I think if he gets 10 to 12 more touches a game, like he might be more effective because it feels like the only time he's getting it is in the box, and then that's his first touch of the game, 30 minutes in. And it's like, I'd like to see him, come back and then Garcia or Mertz or whoever like push up around him and like do some interchanging on that end of the field that I think would make us more dangerous. And so I don't know that it's necessarily a starting lineup change at this point. I've liked our starting lineup and I feel like they've been fairly good. I think there's like little tactic switches that whether it's substitution, whether it's the way we play, it could be an actual change in the starting lineup. But yeah, I don't know. There's a lot of little tactical stuff that I could probably pull out that I would like to see different.
Putting you on the spot, 4-2-3-1 or 5-4-1?
Definitely 4-2-3-1. I think my thing is when DG and Walty are at their best, the team is so calm, calm, and there's no rush and there's just no, and so having them playing side by side and being able to one of them push forward, one of them drop back, and all that kind of stuff, I think is so effective. And when you get away from that, then you're relying on one of them to kind of hold down. And I'm not sure either of them is a true six. And so it's like you need both of them to be playing back there. And so I would really like to see the 4-2-3-1 more consistently. And that turns into a 5-4-1 on defense pretty easily. Everybody kind of drops back into position. And then you push it up again. You push it back up into the 4-2-3-1. So,
yeah, I agree. I like the 4-2-3-1, especially in the first game against North Carolina. We just dominated possession. We were clearly the better team structurally. And last week, in the second half against San Antonio, we came out flying to start. And it was that change in formation and getting guys in the right spot that they were familiar with. So I think we'll probably see the 4-2-3-1 here again. Give me your score prediction, man. How do you think this shakes out?
I don't have a score prediction. What do you mean? No, I really would like to. I think this could be the week where we finally, get some good looks, and we're at home in front of the crowd, and you always get a boost from that. That's been hard.
Yeah.
The last couple of weeks is not playing at home and that kind of thing. So I think. Give me a 2-1. I still don't know that we're super solid defensively, and I think the change in formation actually leaves us more open at the back, which is fine. Again, it's fine. I think, you have to play to the strengths of the team, and you have to figure that out. And so I think we might see more goals given up this year, but if we're scoring more, that's okay. So give me 2-1 Hounds.
I'll take 3-1. I agree with everything you said. I'm just thinking back to I think it was the last game that we played against them. We won 3-0 at Highmark. But we lost 2-0 in Hartford the first time we played them. So yeah, well, I'll say we get back to 3 goals. It'll be the home opener. Everyone's going to be up for it. It sounds like it might be a little chilly and a little rainy, so we'll see. But I don't think that's going to deter any of the fans from coming out, especially after All Hounds Eve last night. That is what we think. Let us know what you think. The game will be at Highmark. Kickoff is at 7 p.m. It's also going to be on CBS Sports Golazo, Paramount Plus, and Sportsnet Pittsburgh. So no ESPN Plus this weekend. So if you don't have a Paramount Plus subscription or don't have access to CBS Sports Golazo, you might be stuck. This is one of the few games that will be on that network, just like last year. So, or you can always watch at Sportsnet Pittsburgh or find somewhere locally that has it on TV if you aren't down at Highmark. But get down to Highmark if you can. Justin, anything else? Any final thoughts here before we get out of here?
No, I think I'm good this week. I think I'm hoping for just a better game. And like last week, it's so hard. Again, it's like you got to figure out the factors of the game, and the wind played a huge part. And I don't want to give excuses to the Hounds to say you lost because of the win. But I think, I just hope to see a little bit better of a game and a little bit more improvement. And that'll make me continue to feel a little bit more positive about the team. I don't feel super negative. I feel a little bit more negative just last week. Everything surrounding the game. But I think we're 2 weeks into the season. There's still a lot of positivity. We still got a long road ahead, as Josh mentioned in the Dogs of War video. There's still a lot of games left this season. So we just got to get it right, though. Got to get it right at some point.
Yep. Agreed. Thanks, everybody. We will be back with more Hounds and Riveters content for you very, very soon.